Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Texas City Tales, History Uncovered. My name is Teresa Mayfield, the local history librarian at Moore Memorial Public Library.
And my name is Shelby Rodwell, the curator here at the Texas City Museum.
Good morning, Shelby.
Good morning.
How are you?
Oh, once my Red Bull kicks in, we'll be right as rain.
Wow, what a nice backdrop for our podcast today.
Yeah, we are sitting today in the main exhibit gallery of the Texas City Museum. Thank you so much for coming out to visit.
Yeah.
And I understand we have a pretty interesting topic since it is March, which is Women's History Month.
Yes.
So we wanted to talk to you about kind of a local legend and
Helen Moore.
Yeah. Just to give some context, Teresa will be able to expand on this here in a minute, but Helen Moore was very active in the women's suffrage movement. She was a huge political actor, locally and statewide. Something that I think people don't realize, though, is women's suffrage, when we think about it as the early 1900s. But in reality, it actually really officially started in 1848 at the Seneca Falls Convention in New York.
What did that look like?
So we had a lot of, I say we as if I was there, but there were...
In spirit.
Right. A lot of women whose names you'll probably recognize. Susan B. Anthony. This was an interesting time, though, because it was pre-Civil War. So a lot of that conversation was focused on white women's rights, right? So women's suffrage and women's rights movements really shifted over the years and kind of changed to reflect the times that they were in. Yeah. Even as early as 1900s, you see Rose O'Neal, who was one of the first nationwide women's cartoonists, producing they're the Cupid babies. And she was producing political media using her Cupid baby cartoons for votes for women.
So in Galveston County, there was a lot of activity for the vote. And Minnie Fisher Cunningham, who was out of Galveston, she was the president for TESA, which is the Texas Equal Suffrage Association.
It's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. But so she had her finger on all the touch points, not just in Galveston, but nationally. And she saw Helen Moore as a person that could take a leadership role within TESA. So she asked her to become the chairwoman for the Southeast District of TESA. Oh, wow. Which I kind of think began her foray into sort of the political field, the political environment.
Yeah, so for our viewers, can you kind of talk about Helen, her first, how she came to Texas City?
Yeah, Helen came to Texas City back in 1905. She married H.B. Moore. She was born in Wisconsin. She married H.B. Moore, and I think right off the get-go, she was involved in Texas City. From 1905 to 1907, she was the only medical person in the town. She was a nurse, and until they were able to get a doctor, she did all the medical, she was the medical personnel for the town. But, she was super influential. She began the Texas City Civics Club, or she was one of the founding members of the Texas City Civics Club. If anyone who might not be familiar with that, the Civics Club aimed to beautify the city, right? Why do we want to beautify the city? Well, one, we want to enhance the city so that people want to come to Texas City, right?
Absolutely.
They might want to work in Texas City. They might want to live in Texas City. So you can't have garbage. You want to have some nice plants around your house.
Yeah, you don't want cattle free roaming throughout the town.
Yes, and that was a big issue for a long time, where cattle was just cattle, and not just cattle, but just animals in general, pigs, donkeys, cattle. They're just roaming around the town, making a mess, chomping on everything, eating everything, and that wasn't going to help the look of Texas City if
Right,
you
not
were
great
trying to
optics there.
if you were trying to entice people to come.
Right. Right. I wonder if that's where, I don't know if you've ever traveled out of state and had somebody go, "Oh, you're from Texas? Don't y'all ride horses to school every day?" I wonder if that's where that comes from.
No,
right?
I don't know. I definitely would not want that here in Texas City in 1915.
Right.
So she really was a mover and shaker. She organized the Texas City Red Cross branch in 1916. In 1919, Texas was the first state in the South to ratify the 19th Amendment. Does anyone know what the 19th Amendment
Pop
means?
quiz. That was when women gained the right to vote.
Exactly. But did you know that women were not allowed to be in politics until they won the right to vote?
Yes, and this is something that is near and dear to my heart, research-wise, because just because they weren't allowed to be in politics doesn't mean that they weren't active politically. Yeah, it looked different than what you might have expected a man to be participating in.
Exactly.
So women like Rose O'Neal were producing persuasive media through writing into newspapers or cartoons, or in the case of Helen Moore, being extremely active in their community and acting as an advocate for their rights.
Yeah, they had ways to be political. Another way was that she was also the president for the League of Women Voters back in 1923. So right before she started thinking about her next big move, which was into Texas politics.
And I think that's so interesting, too, because you kind of see that even in the 19th century. For those who are unfamiliar, my history love is really situated in the 19th century, and particularly with women's history. But you see that that's such a common thread because of this legal denial of women being able to officially participate in politics. You see groups cropping up all over the nation of politically active women coming together for and advocating for their belief systems. Yeah, it's really interesting.
I mean, can you imagine being one of the first of a few women, right? She was one of 3 women to get elected to the Texas Legislature.
Wow, that is really, really big.
The 41st, the 42nd, and the 44th, okay? Starting back in 1928.
Wow.
So can you imagine women just get the right to vote, right? Not too long in the past. Women get the right to vote in 1920, right? And here it is 1928, and you're thinking, all right, I want to make a bigger impact. And here she is, one of 3 women to walk into the Capitol building and say, "Hey, I was elected and I belong here."
Yeah, and how amazing is that to because any type of large change like that socially, there's going to be pushback and there's going to be barriers that these trailblazers are going to have to face, right? It's never just the law has changed and it's perfect now, right? So it's really impressive to be elected in
official capacity.
Yeah, within the decade after,
right?
And for her to be able to, I mean, of course, you always say that you would want it to happen quicker, but that still seems like a pretty quick timeline from gaining the right to vote into being part of the state legislature. That's really amazing.
I wonder how it was for her to have to work with men, right, who hadn't worked with women before on making creating bills, being on committees. This is a whole different environment, not just for her but for men. But she had to have been such a strong woman to be able to kind of stand up for herself and for the things that she had an interest in. So she had a lot of things that she was interested in.
Absolutely.
So like some of the things that she was interested in were healthcare. She was a big proponent for the medical profession, successfully opposing bills that would have exempted chiropractors from medical regulations.
And she was a nurse in Kansas before coming.
Yeah, and she was a nurse in Kansas.
Okay,
so I think
she has a
background,
right, and kind of a particular interest in healthcare. That's amazing.
Yes, exactly. So she advocated for improvements in medical schools and for training. She had advocacy for welfare of vulnerable Texans. She sponsored a bill to establish literacy programs for inmates in state prisons.
Wow!
Because she realized that they did not know how to read. in many cases in state prisons. She established hospitals for the mentally ill. Her efforts led her to founding the Galveston Psychopathic Hospital and a change in the Texas Constitution, allowing individuals to be temporarily admitted to mental institutions without a jury trial. Now, this was important because if not, they would just be put into jail. So people who were having mental issues were just being put into prison.
So that's really important then, that she was, this trailblazer in Texas for mental health advocacy. That's amazing.
She was also on the Appropriations Committee, and we have a really great picture of her. This small woman sitting amongst all of these men who were on the Appropriations Committee. Yeah, and so they wanted. And
clearly, she had a powerful voice too, to be able to get all of this done.
Yes,
yes. Yeah, that's incredible. So I've kind of heard too that Helen Moore had a part in Texas City owning the dike, because initially when it was built, it technically wasn't owned by the city, correct?
Right. It was owned by the Corps of Engineers.
Okay.
Yeah. So she created the legislation that would give the dike over to the city of Texas City.
Oh, wow.
And allowed fishermen to use the area, which before it was off limits.
Wow. So her legacy to this day is actually visible. And
exactly. In the Texas City Dike.
Yeah. Awesome.
I know, it's crazy. She sponsored the State Board of Education. She required that teachers who taught in the public school system needed to be a U.S. citizen. And she established schools and prisons. So
that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's really fantastic. And I think too, she was very active in our community locally, right?
Yes.
In the library, right?
Yes,
the Memorial Public Library, named after her.
Yes. Well, the library is named after the Moore family, but we have a lot of her papers at our library, and that represent a lot of the work that she did while she was at the state legislature, and just amazing, the amount of energy that she put towards the things that she had a big interest in. And
and one thing I find really interesting about her being the only medical personnel in Texas City for a time is we had the first Aero Squadron here until 1915.
1913 to
1915,
yes.
So she, I mean, early planes, riding in them, not like an incredibly safe activity.
No, but at that point we would have had a doctor. They had doctors in the military, so we didn't have to worry about that.
I guess, I suppose that's true. I like to think though that she was coming in there and just fixing everything.
She definitely was a trailblazer. She had lots of energy. Being part of the Civics Club, the American Red Cross, part of the civil defense during the war.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I think that's really interesting. I was kind of reading on that a couple of days ago.
Yeah, so during that time, for civil defense, he offered classes and teaching you how to respond in case of an attack. That was big, especially us living close to the water. Texas City was always concerned of some kind of submarine attack on the town.
Yeah, and that was World War II era, correct?
And that was World War II era, yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, that's super interesting. I think just even talking about her being a part of that during World War II kind of gives me some thoughts about our next episode.
Oh, our next episode is going to be
You'll have to tune in.
Oh,
and see.
We don't want to give a hint?
Do we want to give a hint?
It has something to do with a big blast. And the anniversary is coming up in April. So that's it for today.
And thank y'all so much for joining us here at Texas City Tells History Uncovered. My name, again, is Shelby Rodwell, the curator at Texas City Museum. This is my lovely co-host,
Teresa Mayfield from the Memorial Public Library. And we'll see you on the next go-round.
Bye, guys.
Bye.